Hey friends, I'm Lindsay, your local cozy travel obsessed vlogger, and today I'm here to share my wonderful weekend trip to upstate New York. While I love a national park, I mentioned before that I do always find myself in other random amazing places, and this trip was no exception. So follow along here for some awesome hikes, great food, and some really cool attractions. So the trip details. We were headed to upstate New York for a family member's birthday party on Saturday, so we decided to turn it into a 3-day weekend road trip. And I'm so glad we did. So the party we were going to was in a small town called Mohawk, New York. It was about 20, 25 minutes outside of Utica, super tiny, adorable, very small, like less than 3,000 people live there. Kind of, again, feels a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but not in a bad way. Like the drives to get there and to get back, gorgeous, gorgeous, scenic, not a ton of traffic. I loved it. I loved Mohawk and I look forward to going back. There are so many cool things to do in upstate New York, and we had the best time exploring. So let's start with day one, Friday. I did take the day off of work and we left the house around 9 a.m. and we drove about 2 hours to our first stop in New Paltz, New York. I'll be honest, I didn't love New Paltz. It's a college town, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was super, super crowded and at parts could feel kind of gimmicky or overpriced. The traffic getting into just the main street took like 20 minutes of standstill traffic. So that was crazy. But that's not to say that it didn't have awesome parts. So there's still definitely a lot to do and see while you're in town. Our first stop was at Water Street Market, and this is a cozy little shopping village with over 20 unique stores, everything from art galleries to vintage finds. Really cool place. We spent almost 2 hours in the Antiques Barn, which was a 2-story treasure trove packed with history. We found some incredible old New York postcards and photos, tons of unique vintage clothes, and even a great selection of books. I collect vintage Nancy Drew books, and I found a rare copy for such a good price. My boyfriend got this awesome vintage jean jacket too, which is not something you find every day. After all that antiquing, we were starving. We headed to lunch at the Plaza Diner. This place felt like stepping back in time. Retro decor, great prices, and a menu with something for everyone. The food was delicious, and I still regret not getting a slice of pie. That's a recurring theme in my life. I need to get the pie. Just get the pie. The food was great. The prices were great. The ambiance was great. Big fan. Highly recommend the Plaza Diner in New Paltz, New York. From there, we made our way to the Minnewaska State Park and Preserve. We wanted a hike to break up the trip, and we were so excited to find out this park was right along our route. We're huge fans of Severance, that show Severance. So we had to stop here once we figured out that's where the Orpo episode in season 2 is filmed. We couldn't not go after that. And also, it's just a beautiful park in its own right. We hiked down to Awasting Falls, which was a really peaceful, low-key trail with amazing views the entire way. I've never been able to get this close to a waterfall before, especially not the tallest waterfall in the world. That's a Severance joke. It's pretty mid-sized. It's a pretty normal-sized waterfall. Never been able to get that close before. And it was beautiful. This hike was so short and quick, but every step was gorgeous. You get views from both the top and the bottom of the falls, which is also super unique because you can't always see both ends. We had a great time up top, but when we reached the bottom, we were the water was rushing so fast and there was sunlight in through the trees and this mist floating through the air that was just surreal. It was an ethereal experience. It was such a magical moment, especially for such an easy hike. Usually you have to really work for a view like that. After we were done hiking, we did have to hit the visitor center where I got this cute little bumper sticker, and I was shocked by the amazing views in and around the visitor center. It's just the visitor center. I don't know. They didn't have to go that hard, but they did. By walking a few feet, we were able to get some great views of Lake Minnewaska, and I got one of my favorite videos from the entire trip there, which is this one. Once we finished up at the visitor center, it was time for another 3-hour drive to Utica, New York. This drive wasn't bad. It was pretty scenic, and there was hardly any traffic. We checked into our hotel, the Red Roof Inn, and I'll be honest, this was rough. I never want to put down anyone's hard work. I know the staff that works there is super lovely. They were super helpful. No complaints with the people there. But the room was nasty. And I'm not a high maintenance person. I'm very low key. So there were just stains everywhere. There was hair in the tub. There were cigarette burns in the blanket. There was a dead spotted lanternfly on the floor. It was the worst hotel I've ever stayed at. However, like I said, everyone there was very nice. I'm sure they were just understaffed at the moment. Just you get what you pay for, and we did not pay much. But we picked it because it was close to where we were going for our party, and it was super, it was super convenient. Yeah, just maybe think about it before you stay at the Red Roof Inn in Utica anytime soon. We made the best of it. We had a good laugh, and it's definitely a core memory. After we checked into the hotel, it was around 8 p.m., and we were starving, so we headed to Five Guys up the street. I have zero regrets about this. I do usually try to local food that's unique. We were just so hungry. I couldn't not. So Once we were done, we headed back to the hotel, and in classic places to be fashion, we were in bed by 9. So, wonderful end to a lovely first day. All right, now we're on to day two. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't have a ton to share from day two since most of it was spent with the family and at the party. We still definitely had some highlights. So, first, we stopped by Willie's Bagel Cafe for breakfast and picked up a dozen bagels and some cream cheese to bring to the family who were staying in an Airbnb up the road. It was so good. Everything was super fresh. I'm picky about bagels. I'm from New Jersey. So, like, me saying that means something, in my opinion. And they were just delicious. And it was packed. The place was super busy. So you can tell that like the locals know that like this is where you go for bagels. But it just happened to be right by the Red Roof Inn. So we got lucky in that sense. But after breakfast, we chatted with the family for a while, and then we went to one of my favorite parts of the trip, which was the Mohawk Antiques Mall. It's one of the coolest places I've ever been. Clearly, I love an antique store. I could spend years just sifting through, but this place was massive. It was 2 floors full of vendors, every type of antique you can imagine. I'm really into books and like vintage cookware, and my boyfriend's into Star Trek collectibles. And we both scored some really awesome finds here for a really great price. We spent at least an hour there and we barely made it through the first floor. We had to wrap up because it was time for the party, but I'm dying to go back and explore more. If you live anywhere near this place, you got to go check it out. It's got great hours. Highly recommend the Mohawk Antiques Mall. It was a great way to spend the morning and it was a really lovely day overall. So now let's get into day three. On our final day, we packed up at the Red Roof Inn and left around 9 a.m. We went back to Willie's Bagel Cafe. This time we ate in. I really wanted to eat in there. And it was so cute. It was so cozy. The food was delicious. I got ham, egg, and cheese on a sesame bagel, and it was so good. Afterward, we hit the road for Howe Caverns in Howe's Cave, New York. I had never heard of this place. No idea what we were up for. My boyfriend had been there as a child and remembered loving it. And now I totally get why, because this place was incredible. I'm obsessed. Hal Cavern's #1 fan here. The entrance alone is gorgeous. Like it feels like an old timey estate with like huge sweeping views and a cute little motel attached. Inside, there's a gift shop, there's a candy shop, there's a cafe, and there's even a mini little museum section of Hal Cavern's memorabilia, which I wish I could have purchased. But alas, we checked in for our tour and we wandered around a little bit before it started. One thing that I was not expecting was the terrifying wax figure of Lester Howe himself. My boyfriend didn't mention it, probably because he knew how horrified and delighted I would be by this. Terrifying. It wasn't an animatronic, so at least it wasn't like scarring, but it was creepy. And they had like this creepy Lester Howe voice talking over the intercom. So it looked like this weird wax figure that wasn't moving was supposed to be the one talking. Insane. Unhinged. I loved it. We learned a little bit about the history from that monstrosity. And then we crammed into this tiny elevator, which is insane. Me and my boyfriend are both very tall people. I'm 6 foot, he's 6'3". So if you're claustrophobic or afraid of the dark, this might not be the place for you because we were like stuffed in this elevator. There are multicolored lights all throughout the cave to like prevent moss growth, which I guess like moss is the enemy when you run a cave business. I don't know. I'm not a geologist, but it gives you this like otherworldly, glowy. It was so cool. This otherworldly feel. You get to see stalactites, stalagmites, underground streams, and you do occasionally get like water dripping on your head, which is horrifying. Again, horrified and delighted. It was fun. It made me feel like I was in a cave underground, which I was. The temperature stays at a steady 54 degrees all year round. So definitely bring your jacket. I'm one of those people who's like, oh, it's not gonna be that cold. Like I'm totally fine. It was freezing. I needed my jacket. Don't be like me. The tour itself was a little over a mile with some stairs and even a boat ride that was like very Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory vibes. And I loved every second of it. It was so cool. I don't know how many opportunities I'm going to have in my life to get into a creepy boat underground in the dark and ride along like this weird, I believe it was called the River Styx. They had all these like names for all the different parts of the cave. Again, it was fun. It was so fun. Like, where else are you going to do that? I don't know, but I loved it. And I have been to Luray Caverns in Virginia, and those were also lovely, but a different vibe, totally different vibe, more well lit. These caverns were darker, rainbow, and there was a boat ride, which I will never say no to. Some people might call this a tourist trap. But guess what? I love a tourist trap. I love a tourist trap. I'm a tourist. Might as well embrace it. I'm not going to miss all the cool stuff. Tourist trap kind of just to me means like unique thing that you can only see here. I'm not talking about like when you go to Las Vegas and every other corner there's an escape room. I'm talking about like the weird stuff that nobody else has done because it's so weird. You know what I mean? Anyway, after the tour, we grabbed lunch at the cafe, and embarrassingly, I was like obsessed with this place. My boyfriend got a grilled cheese, but it was one of those like not at all fancy grilled cheese. Two slices of white bread, Kraft single, butter, but it was like perfect. It was like exactly what we needed. I got a ham and cheese sandwich that was just like stacked with ham and cheese, like a ton of fresh deli ham and cheese. I think it was Dietz and Watson. And it was just so good after being starving underground, riding in boats. Like I just wanted a big ham sandwich. We had this sparkling apple cider, which was also delicious. And they make like at the caverns. I don't know. There was also this creepy and delicious cave aged cheddar. Like, how could I say no to that? Like, I can't. I'm a big cheese girl. New handle, I guess. Big cheese girl. Neither here nor there. Anyway, I loved it. It was so good. Anytime they offer me a cheese sample, I'm going to try it, even if it was aged in a cave. They even had a little gem mining setup out back for the kids. I really wanted to try it, but I didn't want to be the only adult out there. So maybe next time I'll go at a time where it's not busy and there's not like me surrounded by a dozen children and I'm trying to like elbow them out of the way to get the best gem out of the gem mining setup. Also, I don't know if this is an upstate New York thing, but this is another example of a place that has no business having the views that it has. Like you walk outside and you're just staring at this beautiful, like rolling hills and grass and flowers. And I was like, what is going on? Like this place is gorgeous and it's in the middle of nowhere. Like you turn off a road and you go straight down this road for like at least a mile and no one's there. Nothing else is there. Beautiful. Beautiful. I guess upstate New York is just known for being pretty, but I've never been there. So I was really pleasantly surprised. After that, after my lovely afternoon of caving and cheese, we hit the road for our 3 hour drive back to New Jersey. Beautiful, scenic New Jersey. I'm always happy to be home as much as I love to travel. So that was great. Overall, I had such an amazing trip. And it really goes to show you how much fun there is to be had no matter where you're headed. Like, just because you're going somewhere for a specific reason doesn't mean it has to be the only thing you do while you're there. This could have been just like a couple hours drive up to see a family party and then drive back down the same day. But we turned it into an awesome weekend road trip. And I really look forward to doing more stuff like that in the future because I'm always down for a road trip. Overall thoughts and tips. Again, I'm going to emphasize don't be afraid of tourist traps. Sometimes they're really fun. Sometimes they're super cool. Another example Cafe du Monde in the French Quarter. I think about it every day. I really think about that place every day. Best food I've ever had, best beignets I've ever had, hot coffee, delicious, perfect. People might say it's a tourist trap, but like it's popular for a reason. Tip number two is if you're visiting a new place, ask what locals recommend because tiny towns like Mohawk might surprise you. When you're visiting a place like Mohawk that's very kind of tiny and maybe like the people who've lived there have lived there for a long time, always ask what locals recommend to do because tiny towns like Mohawk might be surprising for like what they're known for. The Antiques Mall, which was highly recommended to us, was the best part of the whole trip. And it's not that I didn't think they had great things in Mohawk, but like how am I to know that they have an antiques mall that's like massive and all the locals go to? It was worth asking. I'm not the most like outgoing. Sometimes I can be pretty shy, but it's worth it a little bit of nervous energy that it takes to ask and find something as great, find the hidden gems in the town. One more tip is that for road trips, always plan your food stops ahead of time. There is like literally nothing worse than when you're starving and the next exit is 70 miles away and you just have to wait. Like that's awful. And also it can be fun to plan your route, look for places that might be good, and then have something to look forward to as you drive. It's really one of my favorite things to do when I'm planning a road trip. And that's my weekend trip to upstate New York. Thank you so much for joining me. For more cozy, fun travel, follow me here and check out my TikTok and Instagram of the same name, Places to Be with Lindsay. I've got some more vlogs coming your way soon, but for now, I've got places to be, so I will see you later. Thank you so much again. And special thanks to my boyfriend, Harry, who really hooked me up. He's like a video editor and he like knows how to edit videos in a way that as a person who is making her second YouTube video, I don't know if I would be able to do that. Thank you so much and have a great day.